Welcome everybody to our carbon fiber video. Today I'm going to show you how to make a flat panel. I'm also going to show you how to cover a mold, and I'm even going to show you vacuum bagging. Everybody's been wanting to learn how to do that. It's a little technical, but I'm going to show it to you step by step. The first thing is learning about the carbon fiber. This is the most common. It's called a plain weave. This is 5.7 ounces, and it'll give you a real nice look if you're going to do a dash or do a speaker. This is the 2/2 twill, and depending on what you're working on, you may want to use one or the other. The 2/2 twill curves around surfaces real nice. It's also great for vacuum bagging. You'll see that more often on race cars. On the plain weave, it's a little more popular in the auto sound industry. The plain weave gives you that real nice depth. Okay. First thing that we're going to start off with is making a flat panel, and you can either make this for cosmetics or for structural. I'm going to actually make something that's going to be real nice and strong, something that you can make a whole dash plate out of, or even a center console, even just about anything. First, what we want to start with, and I'm going to make this out of the 2/2 twill. We're going to start with the 2/2 twill, and as you can see, I got a bit of masking tape on it. I'm going to teach you guys how to make sure that you cut that properly. Depending on what you're working on, you want to make sure that you cut the pattern properly and get everything pre-set. With fiberglass, we just use plain old scissors, and we really don't care that it frays apart. But when you're working with carbon fiber, it's so expensive, you want to make sure that it doesn't fray apart and you have to cut a new piece. So what I like to do is put some masking tape down on the edge and then cut right down the center of the masking tape. So if I was going to cut a pattern, let's say it was a teardrop or an egg shape, I would put the masking tape down and then cut my pattern out. But for what we're doing today, we're just going to make some basic squares. So I'm going to take this piece and split it right in half. I'm going to take my masking tape, put a line on it here, cut it with my scissors. As you can see, real basic, no big deal. Now when you're cutting stuff nice and straight like this, or doing some dash plates or dash panels, it's easy. Get a set of nice scissors. These Alpha scissors are just awesome. But if you want to really do some cool patterns, this is the Mac Daddy right here. Check this baby out. You can cut circles, you can cut crazy shapes. It'll blast right through the work, and you'll be done in no time. I'm going to put that piece aside. I'm going to split this one more time, because depending on what you're working on, now if you want to just cosmetic, something nice and thin where you can cut it, do an inlay around some speakers, all you need is 2 layers of carbon fiber. You can do 3, depending on the quality of carbon fiber, 2 will do it for you. So I'm going to do 2. This is real good stuff here. I'm going to split this up, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, we've got our pieces ready to go. Now when you're doing carbon fiber, just like in our first video on fiberglass, have all your pieces cut out and ready to go. We've got our 2 pieces of carbon fiber. We're also going to need some 4mm filler. This is a composite material, and it'll space the 2 pieces of carbon apart and give them more strength. This stuff is incredibly strong. I took 1 strand out of this. You probably can't even see that on the video, but I took 1 strand, wrapped it around my hands, and tried to break it. The tensile strength is like 300 pounds, so it's incredibly strong. All right, let's set that aside. We'll bring out the 4mm filler. This is going to go in between, like I said before, and it's porous, so the resin or the epoxy will go right into it. You can see that. Okay, so I got this piece. We're just going to trim it. That's not big enough. Let's get a bigger piece here. This easy cutter is just awesome. It'll cut just about anything for you. Now I'm actually cutting, for this demonstration, I'm actually going to have the filler slightly smaller than the carbon fiber so it fits underneath. And I'm just using the carbon fiber as a tracing tool. Okay. All right, we've got that. Okay. Okay, here's our sandwich. Piece of carbon fiber, 4mm filler, another piece of carbon fiber. But see how it's kind of out of shape? We need something to go on top of that. As you can see, our base piece is a piece of 1/4 inch glass. This is really nice. You want to make sure that it's nice and clean, doesn't have any of anything on it. You want any paint, you don't want any gel coat, nothing. You want it nice and smooth, nice and clean, no dirt, no dust, ready to go. Okay, so we've got that piece of glass. What that's going to do is the actually bottom piece, the first piece of carbon fiber, is going to be the smoothest and the most like a mirror. And that's what we're after here. We want it to look really good, nice, deep look. So we have those two pieces. The next piece we need is called peel ply, and this is used in vacuum bagging. Okay, we're going to cut a piece for this. I'm going to measure this out here. And this can go a bit on the big side. All right. I'm going to save this stuff. It's expensive. This whole procedure, I won't lie to you, this whole procedure is expensive. The carbon fiber ranges anywhere from $40 a yard and up. That's the minimal it costs. You get into thicker carbon fibers, stronger carbon fibers, better looking carbon fibers, and the prices just go up and up and up. They never come back down. But it's really cool. It's cutting edge. It's what's exciting right now. All right, so we have all of our pieces cut. I also have a piece of glass that's going to go on top of here when we're done. Step number 1 is going to be, let's put this aside. We're going to take this glass and cover it and wax it with mold release wax. So let's do that now. We're going to use our Meguiar's mirror glaze. This is actual mold release wax. It's not car wax. But you can use car wax sometimes, but I like to use the mold release wax. It's actually designed for this. And you want to wax it up really good. And you actually want to wax it twice, just to make sure that you didn't forget any spots. You'll see that it's nice and oily, and that's to make sure that the epoxy resin or polyester resin or laminating resin, depending on what you're using, it won't stick to the glass. Most important, because you'll never get your part apart. All right. So we're all waxed up. We're also going to want to wax the small piece of glass, and that's a 1 foot by 1 foot piece of glass, so you want to make sure that you wax that as well. First step then is to get our pieces ready to go, okay? Let's put them together in order just like we're going to lay them, okay? Now this is a 2/2 twill, and it has directions. You can always tell by the yellow line that's going down one side. That's kind of how it came off the roll. The second piece is the 4mm filler. This has larger holes and smaller holes. You definitely want the larger holes facing up so you can get more epoxy down and have the air bubbles come up a little easier. And what I like to do is have the two pieces of carbon facing the same direction. You can also do 45s depending on what you're making. You can do one 90 degrees, one 45 degrees, another one 90 degrees, and it'll give you even more strength. Okay, so that's how it's going to go together. And then of course our peel ply will go on top, and then our last piece of glass. All right, so let's start with the bottom piece. I'm going to take these and actually turn them upside down and set them aside here. For this demo, I'm actually going to use what's called tabletop resin. Okay, it's a 1-to-1 mixture. It's real easy to work with. I would say it's the easiest to work with of all the epoxies. You just mix it 1-to-1. One's a little thicker than the other. Okay, you can see that on the close-up. And what you need here is, you might need a brush. Actually, for using flat panels, I don't use brushes at all. I use the Bondo spreader. So we'll need a Bondo spreader. We're going to need a mixing cup. And we're going to need some rubber gloves. Oh. And I almost forgot. Make sure you protect your clothing. Get yourself an apron. We have them. They're pretty cheap. All right, for the first demonstration on the carbon fiber, we're going to do a flat panel. We're going to do it for structural strength. Before I covered, if we were not doing it for structure, only for cosmetics, we would just lay the two pieces of carbon fiber, the epoxy. Once it was done, it would be ready. It wouldn't be all that strong, but it would be flexible. Let's say if you're doing a concave surface, this would be good to, this procedure would be good to use. Now I'm actually going to build a plate that would actually be a dash panel or a gauge panel, something with some strength. You could actually make these pieces and then integrate them into a door panel. It'll be a real nice baffle board. We're going to mix a batch of 8 total ounces, so I'm going to go 4 and 4, part A and part B. And I like to actually pour in the heavier stuff first. And when you're pouring it in, you want to make sure that it levels off before you continue pouring, because you could easily just blow right by your marker on your measuring cup. Now if you blow by the 4 ounces and say you go to 5, no problem, just add 5 of the other part. And what I like to do is when you get these containers, mark where they are as far as level. And then you can compare it to, just put them side by side and say, oh, I need some more of part A or I need some more of part B. It makes it real easy. All right, so here goes part B. I'm applying it the same way, going around in circles here so that it comes up nice and level. And then I'm going to stop just before it gets to 8 ounces. Let it level off. You can also do this by weight if you have a little scale. That makes it real easy. Okay, so we mix that up. Now, probably the most important part of using epoxies, the mixing. You have so much time, depending on the epoxy. I literally could stir this for 20 minutes and still have another 20 minutes to lay it all up. But you really want to take your time and mix it up real nice. Make sure you're getting into all the edges here, okay? Stir it in the middle, spin in the middle a little bit. Get your own technique down and really mix it up for a full 3 to 5 minutes and mix it. And you'll actually feel it in the mixing stick. You'll feel it change. It'll be real clumpy and real thick, and it'll actually lower in viscosity. It'll get thinner. And once you get to that point, it'll produce bubbles. Don't worry about the bubbles. Just keep mixing. Once it gets to that point, then you're ready to pour. Okay, just about there. It's getting nice and thin for me. And I've been mixing for maybe 3 minutes. Make sure I've scraped the edge and making sure I scrape the bottom. Okay, now you see how the carbon fiber is slipping up here? Don't worry about that. When we put the epoxy in it, it's going to lay right down, no problem. Okay, so we're going to lay some epoxy. I'm not going to lay it all. I'm going to put a nice bead down the center here. And then we're going to spread it out with the Bondo spreader. Not pushing very hard on it, just bringing it out to the edges. Now as it's soaked all the way in, then what I'm going to do is apply a little bit more pressure and push whatever excess epoxy to the dry areas. Remember that if you have, like this piece here is a square foot, it's 5.7 ounces. That's all you really need in epoxy is 5.7 ounces of epoxy. So here we go. Now I'm pulling it a little bit more. Not really worrying about bubbles at this point. Just trying to get it saturated. Okay, I'm going to need a little bit more. I'm going to pour where my dry areas are. Okay, still not using all of it. I've used about half so far, so I've used about 4 ounces. And what I want to accomplish here is get it completely saturated and have some excess for the next layer, which is going to be the filler. So I know that we got all the air bubbles out. It's really nice and saturated. We're even getting puddling, okay? So what you want to do with the puddles is just put them back in your cup. Bring them to one side, put them back in your cup. You don't want any puddles. You want it to be saturated, but you don't want any puddles. Next step, the filler, okay? I want to make sure you put the filler with the larger holes up. I'm going to lay the filler in here. I'm going to push it down with my hands. Make sure it gets down sticky. Remember, epoxies were originally designed as adhesives, so they still have a real good adhesion property, even though some of these epoxies are made for tabletops or cosmetics or even laminating epoxies. Okay, so we have the 4mm filler on. I'm going to do a quick little mixing again of our last 4 ounces, and then I'm going to pour 4 ounces on this. Now this 4mm filler will use about 1.5 times the amount of the actual mat. So I'm going to put all 4 ounces on here, and then we'll probably have to mix up another batch of just 4 ounces as opposed to 8 ounces. And don't worry about having to remix, because that's what's so cool about this one-to-one epoxy is you have so much time to mess with it. You're not in a real rush. You have a better chance of doing it right. I'm going to spread it around real nice. Make sure I get everything nice and wet. You got a couple stubborn edges, don't worry about them. As soon as we put the glass on there, put a little weight on there like a nice roll of wire, it'll sit down just nice for us. Okay, next step. Put our next piece of carbon fiber on here. Lay it on there nicely, put it in place. And before we put any more epoxy on it, just take the spreader, kind of make sure it's on there nice and flat. Not putting a lot of pressure here, just nice, even. Okay, now we'll get the rest of our epoxy on here, and you can just put the rest of it on now. Whatever is left over, we'll squeegee off. Oh, and we're going to have a lot left over, I can tell already. Okay. So first thing again, spread it. Don't apply any pressure yet. What I like to do with the spatula here, just kind of tap it in rows. And you can see all the air bubbles behind the spatula coming up. Because you have the air bubbles from the 4mm filler coming up. And you want to get all those out, and the epoxy will just lay down. It'll just lay right in there. It'll be beautiful. Now you want to do this. This takes some time, and you have plenty of time with this one-to-one epoxy. Take your time with this step. Spend 15-20 minutes getting as much air out of it as possible. You really want 0 air. Since we're not going to be vacuum bagging, it's really not going to be helping us. So this is another very important process and a very important step. We're going to use a fiberglass roller here in a minute and get all the rest of the bubbles out. I'm going to set that aside for a second and grab our fiberglass roller. I'm sure you guys have used these before. Don't apply too much pressure because you'll just push the epoxy right off the piece. Make sure you pick it up every so often and keep an eye on your puddle of epoxy that's either in front or behind the roller. And do some rolling. Get it coming up for you. And if you see some dry spots, use the roller to push the epoxy right where you need it. So you'll have it there. It'll be real nice. All right, I think I got just about all of them out. So I'm going to do a final rub, kind of back and forth, making sure that I don't go too far offline. All right, now we're going to collect the rest of it with the spatula and the roller. So what you want to do is just roll it to the back here, bring it up, spatula it, put it in the cup. You want to get just about all the excess off. You want it to look wet, and depending on, if you have a nice clean room, you can actually leave it wet. It'll self-level itself. Leave it wet, and it'll be real nice on the top and the bottom, as long as it's real nice and clean and you don't have a lot of dust in the room. If you do have a little bit of dust and the epoxy is thick enough, you can go back and sand it with like 600, wet sand it, and then polish it out with car polish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in some acetone so I don't throw it away. No sense in wasting. And I'm just going to take just one more spatula grab at it. Just making sure it's nice and smooth. Now you can see those little lines in there. Maybe you can or maybe you can't. But if you just barely drag the spatula over them, it'll minimize your lines. So when you put the peel ply on, then you put your piece of glass on, it'll be real nice. Our next step is the peel ply. We take this out. This is our green piece. Lay it at the edge here, and then just drape it on. Okay? Take the spatula from the center and make it nice and smooth. Don't put any pressure on it. All you're doing is getting rid of the bubbles in between the peel ply and the epoxy. All right, we got the peel ply on. Next step, the other piece of glass. Okay, here's our 1 foot piece of glass, and I've waxed it, as you can see. I waxed it twice just like we did the base. Lay that on there. Push down on it. What I'm doing is turning my hand like this, pushing down on it. Okay, now this epoxy takes 4 hours to set, 24 hours to cure. So I'm going to put a nice something heavy on there, like a gallon of resin or 2 gallons of resin, maybe a roll of wire, and I'm going to set that on the bench, and then tomorrow she'll be ready. This procedure is good if you're in a shop like ours where you have dust all over the place. You got the peel ply and the glass preventing the dust from getting to it, and you'll see what happens when we pull it apart. All right, our carbon fiber is cured. It's cured overnight. We've got our nice 4-gauge weight here that I've kept on top of the glass, and now it's time to pull the glass off and see what she looks like. Set this down here. Now pulling this glass off, you got to be very careful. Even though we used mold release wax, a real heavy coat of mold release wax on it, it still is glass and you can break it. So you can use pieces of wood or shims and get it up underneath. You can also use a panel tool, rest it on a piece of wood to make sure that you get it off nice and even. So I'm going to kind of work my way around using the piece of wood and watching it come off nice and easy here. I need a nice lip. How about this lip right here? There it goes. Okay. It's coming off. There it goes. That's about half of it right there. All right. So we're going to pull that off. Keep that for next time. Ooh, nice and smooth. I'm going to take the peel ply off. Now the peel ply will actually give us the look of carbon fiber if it were vacuum bagged. It's kind of like a satin look, okay? That's really cool. And now we need to pull the whole piece off. So we want to get underneath it and pry it off the glass. One thing I didn't show you is you can always check your progress. I mean, look at that. You can look right through the back of it and see how it's working. And we're looking real nice there. So I'm going to pull that off. Nice and easy with it. Working my way around. All right, and then she releases. That's beautiful. I got a nice piece. It's nice and strong. It's super gloss on one side, satin on the other. Nice mirror finish. It's got some wax on it. We'll have to get the wax off of it. Once we get that wax off of it, it'll be real nice. Here's the satin side, which still has a really cool race car look to it. It all really depends on what you want. Okay, our piece is complete. I showed you the front and the back, the difference between the peel ply and what the glass can do for you. Now we're ready to cut holes in it, mount whatever we're going to mount in it. Be aware that carbon fiber is brutal on tools. It will ruin your saw blade, it will ruin your hole saws, so just be aware of it. You can use just about anything to cut it, but some things will actually just wear out right away. If you have an abrasive disc, that will work real well, and they're pretty inexpensive to throw away. Now, if you want to get a higher luster shine on it, what I recommend you do is get some automotive clear coat and spray it, and it'll UV protect it, and it'll make it really nice. I'm going to show you guys very quickly how to make a cosmetic carbon fiber panel. What I have is the plain weave, okay? I've cut 4 squares. I'm going to actually use 4 layers to make it real kind of structural, but mainly cosmetic. You can do it with just 2 layers if you want. I'm going to do it with 4. You can use 2 or 3, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to use the laminating resin, which is the polyester resin, which is perfectly clear, and it actually should be ready in about half an hour, so here goes the steps. Okay, I'm mixing up the resin. Just like before, using the MEKP. I'm going to pour the resin on. I'm actually going to roller it in, making sure I get all the way to the bottom. Heating the piece up to about 80 degrees on the surface is going to help the resin cure quicker. Because when you spread it out, it takes longer to cure than it does in the cup, and you can see in the cup it's already cured. This is already cured. But when you lay it out flat, it takes a little bit longer, so I'm trying to heat it up a bit and get it cured pretty quickly. Okay, our piece is dry. Let's take a look here. Look at that. Perfect. There's a cosmetic piece for you. I actually did 3 layers. I know I said I was going to do 4, but I did 3 layers. It's not all that strong. You can see where it flexes a bit, but look how beautiful. And we laid that on the glass with a nice resin, and it's beautiful. Hey, welcome back everybody. Hey, I know you didn't go anywhere, but it's the beauty about videos. I can take lunch and come back and finish up. All right, this is part 2. What we're going to do is wrap this speaker pod here with carbon fiber. Okay? We had made this just the way we had made them before in the previous videos. We used the MDF speaker rings, we used some standoffs, the mold fabric, the spray polyfill, but as you can see I spray painted it black. And the reason you want to do this is a lot of the carbon fiber will have holes in it, and what you'll see behind that is you'll see here, you'll see white spots. So I just dusted it over with black real quick, and we're going to use the 2/2 twill, which is a little more shapeable for this application. Now the real way to do this is to actually pull a mold and vacuum bag it in. We're going to do that in part 3. I got my mold all ready, and I'm going to show you that a little bit. But here we go on part 2. What you're going to need, obviously some carbon fiber. We're going to use the polyester clear resin for this application. We've got our speaker pod ready to go. It's smooth, but it's not too smooth. I didn't have to spend a lot of time on it. Sanded it with 80, dusted it with some black paint, and it's ready to go. Mixing cup, mixing stick. I always got a spatula on standby. You're going to need a good pair of scissors for this one, okay? I'm going to show you how to do that. We got a little bit of our select super glue, and I think we're ready to go. First thing that I did is I took that other half of the cup and I super glued it to the base, just so it can stand off for me and I can work on it. Because what you want to do is drape the cloth over and make it stick. Okay. This procedure is a little bit different than before. I'm going to move the carbon fiber out of the way just for a moment. What we want to do is mix up the resin first. This is a messy job here, so you're going to definitely want to have a couple gloves on standby. And the other thing we're going to need, which I don't have, yes I do, it's a little 2-inch brush. Okay? What I like to do is hit the brush a little bit and see if there's any loose strays, because you start working on it, get it on your part, and it's a pain in the butt. And if you have any strays, just trim those babies off. Okay. All right, we're going to mix up our resin. Our little dipping cup. This is really cool stuff. It dries clear and it works really well for this application. And you catalyze it just like you would catalyze regular resin. And I'm only going to mix up a small amount. I don't need very much for this first step. Okay, what do I got there? That's way too much. Like 2 ounces. That's all I really need. Okay, I'm going to pour my 2 ounces in here. I got about 2 ounces. I'm going to put 20 drops of MEK in here. 2, oh, that's about 4. All right, I'm going to mix it up really good. And actually, it's very important that you put enough MEK because you want this to cure fairly quickly. Because as soon as it starts to get sticky, that's when we're going to apply the carbon fiber. Got that ready to go. And so all I'm going to do is brush this baby down. I'm going to come along the side over here. I'm going to just put a nice thin coat all over our piece. You see that okay? Just a nice thick coat, just like I'm applying an adhesive, if you will. She's coated. It was that quick, and I didn't even use an ounce. So, now, we want to just hang out. I'm going to put my brush in some acetone so we can continue to use it. Okay, got my little acetone bucket here with my brush in it. Keep my brush fresh. Now, as soon as the resin starts to gel, it's going to get sticky. But we kind of want to wait just to the other side of the gel time. And what I got for a measurement here is I got what's left in the cup. I'm going to keep an eye on that. Now, the cup will gel first because there's more mass to the resin. I'll give you an example. We lay a nice thin sheet of fiberglass when we lay polyester resin. That might take 30 to 40 minutes to cure. But if you leave it in the cup, you ever notice how it only takes 10 minutes? Because of the mass, it generates more heat, so it'll cure faster. Okay? So just on the other side of the gel time, we're going to take the carbon fiber and we're going to lay it on there and stick it on there, trim around the outsides, and have our base and have it glued on, and then we're going to coat it again and we'll be done. Just giving it a little bit of heat, help it along. Time is money. Keeping the resin at about 80 degrees, maybe 90 degrees, will help it cure faster. Just like what I talked about in the more mass, since this is a very thin coat, man, it could take us an hour to dry it. We don't have time for that. So, got my gun set at about 700, but I'm just kind of keeping the area a nice 80 degrees. And then what I'm going to do is just barely touch it and see if she's sticky. Definitely sticky, but not quite ready yet. So we're going to heat it up a little bit more. And you can even keep heating after you put the carbon fiber on. So I'm going to leave the heat gun running and ready to go. Got, well, all we need is the scissors. We got our carbon fiber. Now I've trimmed off all of the tape because we really want it to be able to move around for us. And I'm going to drape it right over the center. I'm going to stick it down here. And then I'm going to push down the center, making sure that I don't tear any fibers. Kind of roll it out. The biggest part is going to be is any of these big radiuses, you may actually have to pull it and get it to shape. So go ahead and pull it down. And hopefully we won't have any creases. We don't want any creases. Now the carbon fiber won't stretch with heat. The only thing the heat's going to help us do is get the resin to cure for us. There we go. And what that resin will do is it'll hold it right in place for us so that we can put the top coat on and make it look nice and glossy. Oh, look at that. That came out nice. No creases. Oh, almost. Now, time for the front. I'm going to stretch the front down. Stretch this down. Stretch that down. Look at that. Wraps so beautifully. This 2/2 twill is really nice for this. I have done it with the plane weave, and it's a lot more work. And we're going to start carrying the 2/2. It hasn't been that popular, but we're getting more and more call for it and for doing this type of application. So we're going to have it for you guys. All right. Now I got it all on there. I'm going to just heat it up just a little bit more, making sure that it doesn't pop off when I'm heating it. And then I'm going to hold it in place and use my hand to hold the heat in there. Well, the resin's almost cured, so you shouldn't get too much resin on your hands, and you should be able to do this. If you have too much resin, it'll get real sticky and you'll start pulling the fibers apart with your hands. If you get into that situation, just change your gloves real quick. All right, I'm going to start trimming some of this excess off, which will take away some of the strain of some of these tougher bends. And I'll show you what I'm doing here. See all this strain right here? I'm going to give some strain relief. Up under here, it's real crazy. Make sure you still leave a good 1/2 inch in case you have to move something around. You cut it too short, and then you're SOL and you got to start all over again. Now I'm going to let that sit for about 20 minutes, let it cure completely, and then we're going to do the top coat. Okay, we've given it its due time. It's not really warm anymore. It's a good indication because the catalyst is going through the chemical change while it's warm, so it's really not warm anymore. So then it's ready. What I did is I flipped it over and I trimmed all the carbon fiber down to about 1/2 inch. So we got 1/2 inch all the way around the base. So if we wanted to wrap that in, we still could. Okay? Now, second step for this, or third step, I've lost track myself. Mix up some more resin and then put a real nice thin coat on. I'm going to mix about the same amount of resin, about 2 ounces. All right. So here we go. Just like the first coat, nice and light. All you want to do is saturate the carbon fiber. That's all you want to do. You don't want it puddling. Try and go with the grain, depending on the carbon fiber that you're using. Try and stick with the grain so that the fibers don't come apart on you. If you got it, the first step really nice and strong underneath there, it should hold all the fibers in place for you and you shouldn't have that issue. I'm just going to tap some on top of the ring here. Make sure that's good, nice and saturated. I'm going to finish this baby up, and then we'll let her dry. Now if you see a piece pop off, like I got this little piece right here, it's popping off, you're going to have to babysit it until it cures, and you're going to have to keep dabbing on it or hold it in place. Maybe use the heat gun, heat it up until it's firm right where you want it. And I think we're just about done with this one. Depending on how glossy you want it, you can do 1 coat, you could do 3 coats, you could do a coat every day until you get your desired gloss on there. All right, that baby's ready. Now that's going to take another 20 minutes to cure. I'm going to babysit this little piece here that keeps sticking up on me, and I'm going to heat it up with the heat gun. And that was it. It laid down for me perfectly. So I'm just going to give the rest of it a nice little heating, and then I'm going to come back in a few seconds and finish her up. All right, she's a little tacky, but fairly dry, nice and cold. And a little bit tacky is okay, because then we put the next layer on, she'll be ready to go. What I want to do now is flip her over and trim off all the excess carbon fiber that's on the back here. So I'm just going to trim that off so you can see there. And I got these Alpha scissors. These things are awesome for cutting carbon fiber. They stay sharp. And so we got the back all done. The front pretty much done, as you can see here. But it doesn't have enough gloss on it for me, so I'm going to hit it with one more coat. Now, depending on the part that you're working on, you can use a pouring technique that I like to use, where you just pour it on, let it drip off. Since you have the space, it'll just fall into the glass. The razor blade pulls it right off the glass without a problem. The second coat, you'll immediately see some serious depth going on. And for most of the products, most of the parts that you'll make, 2 coats, and you'll be done. All right, I'm going to finish this one up. And part 3 is going to be very cool. We're going to do some vacuum bagging. So we're going to make this out of 100% carbon fiber. I'm going to show you the whole vacuuming process. So stay tuned. Vacuum bagging, to some people who don't know anything about it, can be very difficult. Once I show you here, you'll say, oh, that's pretty simple. But it involves a lot of steps and it involves a lot of different products for specific parts of the vacuum bagging process. The first thing you're going to need is the mold, okay? Now the piece we covered earlier in part 2 was a little door panel or kick panel that held a 4-inch and a tweeter. What I did is I pulled a mold off of this piece out of fiberglass. Check this piece out right here, and this will show you kind of step by step for those of you that haven't made a mold before on what you need to do. Okay, first step with making your mold is spraying the PVA onto the mold. We've got our mold ready to go. It's got primer on it. All we have to do now is spray a light coating of the PVA and then a heavy coating and let it dry. You can accomplish this by using your HVLP. Once you're done, it's time for the gel coat. Mix up your gel coat, spray that on. Make sure you have a nice thick coating, and then you're ready to do the resin. Now I'm going to do this pretty fast so you guys can catch on to it. Chop up a bunch of 3/4 ounce chop mat, mix up some of your polyester resin, put it all the way around. Now the gel coat will be sticky, so it'll hold everything in place. Put your resin on, soak it in, make sure you get the chop mat as close to the part as possible so you get the best mold shape. Then you're going to place in some wooden blocks all the way around to give you a nice shelf and fiberglass those in place. Once everything is cured, you'll have your mold, and then all you have to do is pop it off, turn it upside down, and then sand the top of it, which is what I'm showing you here. Just pull this off. Pull the PVA off. You can see the PVA coming off. It's like a layer of plastic. And once that's done, I'll run a DA sander along the top so that I can get everything nice and flush. I drilled a hole in the center there that you can see, and I'll just pop it in with an air hose, pull the plug out. I got the mold, and we're ready to go. Once you have this piece done, you have your mold. Now we're going to make an enclosure out of 100% carbon fiber with a real nice high performance epoxy. This epoxy is 5:1, so I'm going to show you a little bit different epoxy mixture. In part 2, we used a polyester resin that was clear, and then even in part 1, we used a 1:1. This is a 5:1, so it's a little different on the mix. You're going to need a very good vacuum pump. Make sure your vacuum pump has a nice gauge on it. The other items that you're going to need, this is peel ply. Okay, you're going to need this. This is the first item in. You're going to put in the 2 layers of carbon fiber. I'm going to use both types. I'm going to use the plain weave, and I'm also going to use the 2/2 twill, so you can see the differences here. Okay, I'm going to use the plain weave on the outside for cosmetics. I'm going to use the 2/2 twill for strength. So we covered the peel ply. The other items, this is your release film, and it's porous. It has little mini holes in it. Okay, and what that allows is the epoxy to come up into the bleeder breather. That's what this cloth is. And that's going to soak up any excess epoxy. The whole point of doing a vacuum bagging system is so you have your carbon fiber in the middle and you squeeze all the excess epoxy out, so you have, let's say for instance, 10 ounces of carbon fiber and 10 ounces of epoxy, and that's it. That's all you want, those 20 ounces. Keeps it really light, keeps it really strong. This is how they make race cars, okay? Last thing is the vacuum bag, self-explanatory. This goes on top. We put our suction hose on here. We have a little fitting that's going to go right in here. This hose that's clear, it's clear on purpose to make sure that we don't suck any epoxy up into the vacuum pump. These vacuum pumps are expensive, so you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Also real important that you have a gauge, and you want to be able to suck about 20 to 30 pounds per square inch on the mold. Any more than 30 will be a little excessive. Somewhere around 20 is good. I've put this one together and I tested it. Basically put my thumb on the end of it and it sucks 22 pounds per square inch, and that's fine. I think it might even go to 24, but we'll see in the future. All right, so we have our pieces ready to go. I've trimmed everything out. The first step is to apply the sticky tape. I don't think I covered that, but this is a lot like our Gorilla Snot in our industry, but they call this sticky tape in the vacuum bagging industry. And what you do with that is you trim your piece out right where you want to stick the vacuum bag to, and when you overlap it, it creates its own seal so it won't let any air in. And when we put the vacuum bag on there, we'll make sure it's nice and tight, and obviously the gauge is going to show us if we have a tight seal or not. The tools that you're going to need, I took one of our spreaders, okay, and I cut it in half, and then I rounded the edge of one of them so that I can get in here and smooth the epoxy all into the corners and making sure that I get all the air bubbles out. And we're going to do it layer by layer. The next tool, of course, a roller, just like you saw in the past. This is a bristle roller. This is for getting out a little finer bubble that's in there, and we're going to use that just to get some of the fine bubbles out, especially on the very first layer. It's crucial. Okay, I've got a couple scissors here with me. I got my electric scissor. We got a razor knife, mold release wax, got to have that. Mixing cups, we got a brush. I have a little tiny mixing cup as well that only holds 60 cc's or 6 milliliters, and we're going to use that for our catalyst, and then we're going to use the big cup for the actual resin. Step number 1 is to make the mold. We covered that. Step number 2, we want to put our sticky tape on, but make sure that we leave the paper on so it's easier to work with. Step 3, cut all your pieces out. Okay? I've got my peel ply. It's pretty much cut to shape. As you can see, it's a little big, but when we push it in, it should fit just inside the sticky tape area. Okay, because remember the sticky tape is for the vacuum bag, and that's about all that's going to stick to it is the vacuum bag. So we have our peel ply, we've got our release film, we got our breather bleeder, the vacuum bag, and of course our 4 pieces of carbon fiber. Now I haven't trimmed those, and what I'm going to do is just trim them up a little tighter right before we lay them. Okay? Now with this epoxy, this is some high performance stuff. This is laminating epoxy. It only takes 20 minutes to cure inside the cup. Okay? So that's all the working time you have is 20 minutes. Once you lay it in here, you're going to have about an hour of work time. The reason being, when it's in the cup and it's nice and thick, it generates a lot of heat. Snow has a snowball effect on getting it to cure. So we want to get it in there and get it spread around, and get all the layers in, get the vacuum going in under 20 minutes. Now you have other epoxies that can take longer if you want, but this is the one I like to use for this size part. Now if you're going to make a whole hood for a car, you want to get some slower epoxy, something that will give you an hour's working time because you need to roll out all those bubbles and get it nicely laid out and take your time with it. But this is a really small part and time is money, so this is the one that I recommend for small parts. Step number 1, we've made the mold. It's nice and smooth. We sanded it up. I'm going to apply the mold release wax, a nice generous coating over the entire enclosure, making sure I don't leave any big clumps anywhere. And this is our safeguard. This is to make sure that our part comes out, because after all this work, all this money we spent, we want to make sure that part comes out of there. I'm also doing the top edge. And I'm going to do 2 coatings on this just to make sure that I got everything covered. All right, we have the mold release wax in place. we've got the mold release wax in. Next step, we want to put the peel ply in place. Okay, I'm just going to push that in a bit. We've got that in position. Now it's time to mix the epoxy. Now remember, this is 5:1. So I like to work in milliliters. You can work in ounces. This little baby here has 2 ounces on it. So let's say if we used 1 ounce of catalyst or the hardener, then we can use 5 ounces. And so we'll have a total of 6 ounces to work with. And I think that might be enough. We can do it in milliliters. And if we do 25 milliliters, then we can do 125 milliliters on here, or 1/4 liter. And that would give us everything we need as well. So let's dispense the two separately before mixing them together so that we have our mixtures just right. So I'm going to take the catalyst. I'm going to set it on a flat surface and check it. Looks like I got a little too much. All right, so we have our hardener. I'll put that aside. Now for our resin, I'm going to dispense 1/4 liter. Now this high performance laminating epoxy is awesome stuff, okay? Keep in mind that it costs double the amount of regular fiberglass resin, okay? So you want to make sure you mix it right. It's really cool stuff. You'll see, it's really awesome. Okay. We have our 2 pieces mixed here, or not mixed, but we have our 2 pieces dispensed. We have 5:1 going on here. We've got our mold just about ready to go. We want to make sure that we have everything ready because the clock is ticking. I got my watch right here, and I'm going to put a timer on it for me, about 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, we should have it all laid. All right, I got the peel ply ready to go. I got carbon fiber standing by, got all my layers. I got my layers in order on how I'm going to bring them in, so I shouldn't have to waste any time. All right, so salute. Make sure that you get all the catalyst or all the hardener out of the cup. Now, just like before with the 1:1, you want to make sure that you mix it up thoroughly. Your 20 minutes of time really doesn't start until you're 100% mixed. So take an extra minute. I'm going to stir this baby for a good minute, minute and a half to make sure it's mixed. I'm scraping the edges, scraping the bottom. It'll develop some bubbles in it. Don't worry about it. Those will come out when we vacuum it up. Got the epoxy ready to go. First step, first sheet of carbon fiber. Now, if you have any tape on the edge, I recommend that you cut it off because that tape is restricted to the movement. So we're going to blast that off real quick. Love these electric cutters, man. These things are awesome. Okay, I'm going to lay in our first layer. Making sure that the peel ply didn't go out of place. Making sure it's still in there. Okay, got it in place. Now I'm going to zap off some of these corners. Leaving about a 1/2 inch of length all the way around. Okay, now I'm going to pour in some of the resin and put a nice puddle in there. I'm going to take the brush and brush it up the sides. This will give it its defined shape, and it disappears quickly into the resin. I'm going to bring it all the way up to the edge. Well, that resin disappeared very quickly. Putting it in a position. You can move it around with the brush. Make sure you brush all the way up and put some more in. Scoop it up. Now I'm going to saturate the edges all the way up. Bringing it up, make sure it saturates. Okay, quickly I'm going to put our next layer in. This is going to be the 2/2 twill. I'm going to cut off the tape. I'm going to place this in. Place this one in a kind of an awkward shape. Push it in with my fingers, grab my brush, Push it into place. When it's into place, I'm going to trim off these wings. Remember, once you get it into the mold, you have a lot longer time to work with it than you do in the cup. So you want to get it in the mold right away. By cutting these pieces off, it's strain relief and it allows it to lay down in position better. I'm going to put the plain weave in next. So that when we're done with it, we'll be able to see the plain weave on one side and the 2/2 twill on the other. It'll look kind of cool. We can get a perspective of each. And so far, I'm actually only 5 minutes into my time, so I got a good 15 minutes left of working time. So I can get this nice and saturated, get all my layers together, get the vacuum going before it cures. All right, last piece going in. Just going to trim the tape off of it. I'll lay this one in just square. I'm going to trim off the excess. Now remember my little scraper with the curved edges. Now using both, I'm actually pushing down pretty hard and making sure that this goes up against the mold inside. And what that's doing is it's bringing up all the air bubbles and bringing it to the surface and saturating the front piece. Very important that you get all the corners, get that carbon fiber down in those corners, and then pull the epoxy up out of it. And it's almost time to get my cup up here in the front, get rid of the mixing stick, and I'm going to get rid of some of this epoxy that we don't need. Depending on the piece that you're working on, the top could be crucial if you're going to mate two pieces together to make a cylinder or something hollow. So the top could be crucial depending on what you're working on. I think I got just about all the air bubbles out. Give you an idea of what it's looking like in here. I know it's hard to see, but I'm going around this shape as best I can, making sure it's in there. And you can see that on the camera there. And then whatever is at the top, as far as leftover resin, just putting that in the cup. So I'm using my brush as a sponge, if you will. Cleaning it off. Okay. She's looking good. Put the release film in. I'm going to push it in from the center. Push it down. Get it on there. Make sure it touches the bottom. Now the breather bleeder. Put that in there. And that's going to soak up the excess epoxy. Now it's vacuum bag time. So we're going to lay that over the top. I'm going to push it in a little bit. Make sure the bleeder's out on flat. Okay. I'm going to push that in a little bit, and then I'm going to start pulling the release tape, the sticky tape off, and applying this, making sure that I get an airtight seal all the way around. It's crucial. Next step, we got to put our plug in here. So we're going to take the nut off that, take one of the O-rings out. I'm going to put a little hole. You know, I'm going to feed it in this way. Oh, look at that, it doesn't come up, that's cool. I'm going to feed it in this hole. Manipulate it over to my slice and poke it through. And I'm going to put my other O-ring on. And then I'm going to nut it down. Let's put the vacuum hose on. Let's turn the vacuum on. And it'll take a minute for it to remove all the air. As you can see, she's working already. And I'm going to go around and make sure that the bag's sealed up nicely, looking for any leaks. Okay, you can see now it's got the vacuum going. That release film, where the excess epoxy is coming through the holes into the breather bleeder. All right, now you can see we're getting a good vacuum, over 20. It's been about half an hour. We're still sitting at 20 inches. So I'm actually going to let that sit for another half an hour, and then I'll turn the vacuum off and let it cure for another hour, giving us a total of 2 hours of cure at 80 degrees. Okay, if we were in 70-degree weather, we would probably give it an hour and a half to 2 hours, but that's really as cold as you want to work with this product. And you'll be able to feel it once it starts getting warm. And it's going to be one really nice mold. Our mold's all done. We've vacuumed it down for 2 hours. I used the heat gun to keep this area at about 80 degrees. And in 2 hours, it turned hard. The one way you know how it's cured is you can take your screwdriver or your panel tool and tap it, and it should sound nice and solid. If you have something that sounds kind of like that, now that's double breather bleeder there, so I know, but it should all be nice and hard, okay? I'll let this baby cure for about 8 hours, so she's ready to go now. What I like to do to pull this baby apart is put some gloves on, because any stray carbon fibers that have epoxy on them will poke you very quickly, kind of like needles. So I'm going to pull the vacuum bag off. Okay, there's the vacuum bag. I'm going to pull off the breather bleeder, and the release film is coming with it. Ah, there we go. So here's our mold. Nice and strong. Now we just got to get it out of there. Now you can do one of two methods, all depending on the shape that you have. You like panel tools, and I also like air, like you saw me pull the mold out of the part out of the mold earlier. So I'm going to work it around here and get this baby out. Got our mold out. Going to pull the peel ply off. And now we've got our piece. It's got the satin finish just like I had showed you. Now if you wanted a gloss finish on this piece, all you need to do is take some automotive clear coat, spray it down, you could even sand it and buff it, and then you have your piece. But you can see it's a lot of steps in order to make vacuum bagging. It's pretty cool. All right, just to review what we've done today. We did our carbon fiber piece that's for structure, real nice and strong. Can mount a radio in there, gauges, build a dash out of this. This is with that 4mm filler. We made a piece with the plain weave on glass, so it's nice and cosmetic. It's a bit flexible, and you can use this on certain applications. Remember that this stuff does conduct electricity, so be careful with power distribution. We covered a kick pod or speaker pod with a 2/2 twill using the polyester resin as opposed to the epoxy resin. And we even did some vacuum bagging where we made the plug, made the mold, and pulled the carbon fiber mold from that. If you have any questions at all, give us a call at Select Products. Our website, selectproducts.com, very easy. Our phone number I'm going to put on the screen here in a second. It's 800-458-6063. My name is Robert Garza, and thanks for buying the video. Greatly appreciate it, and I promise to keep them coming.